Hey everybody, Chicago Goon here, bringing you another Arsenal talk. In this Arsenal talk, I'll talk about the departure of Lukas Podolski, who's going to Inter Milan on loan with the option to buy at the end of the season. Normally, I probably wouldn't do something like this, but the fact of reading some of the tweets on Twitter really kind of got me going. It really kind of kind of boggles my mind, to be honest with you, that some Arsenal fans are watching imaginary TV as far as the departure of Lukas Podolski. If they're saddened about the morale standpoint of Lukas Podolski leaving, sure. I'm not attacking him on a personal level. I don't. Obviously, none of us really know him, but he seems like a perfectly fine human being. He's always seems upbeat. You could see him on the bench all the time. There's pictures of him, countless pictures of him sitting on the bench where everybody else is stone-faced, and he always seems like he has a smile on his face. He always seems like he's laughing. Very upbeat. Which every club kind of needs that type of guy who's going to maybe play some pranks, always keep the guys upbeat and such like that. So through his time at Arsenal, that was basically kind of like his job. It seemed like. But it always seemed like Lukas Podolski was always that type of person to keep players upbeat, to maybe do some pranks, always keep them laughing, always keep them smiling, and such. But as far as a player goes, and this is the only, I'm not gonna attack him because I don't know him personally. No one really does. We only know him on a player standpoint, on what he does on the pitch. Of course, we do know what he says off the pitch. He he has plenty of tweets throughout the day. He's always doing charity work and stuff. So I'm not gonna, this isn't at a personal level. This is a player standpoint. So people are saddened by this, and honestly, I'm not sad. I'm not sad that he's leaving because there was just no time for him. There was no room for him at this club. To be honest with you, because of his lack of effort, what it boils down to. I don't know how. I don't know what games that people were watching while he was playing, but there was just such a lack of effort from Lukas Podolski through his time at Arsenal, and that's why he didn't get any games. Everybody was questioning, every time he would score a goal, oh, he needs more time. He needs to start more. He needs more minutes. He needs more time in the rotation. Well, you can just watch a game, and there's plenty of games that he played in that he was completely invisible, that you didn't even realize, or you basically forgot that he was even on the pitch to begin with. Because it's always kind of boggled my mind of why Arsenal even went after him in the first place, or why they even signed him. I think it was more like a desperation type buy from Arsene Wenger of when they did buy him. Because it didn't really make any sense. He wasn't really, as far as a finisher goes, I mean, he's great. He's one of the better finishers in the world, but that's all he is. He's not really a traditional number 9, to be honest with you, either. He's more of a, there's a striker, and then sometimes a center forward kind of plays behind the main striker. And plus two, if you didn't put a striker right next to him to give him support, he was pretty much useless on the pitch because he never showed really any type of real effort on the pitch, even when he was put in the striker. You can date back all the way from the 12 and 13 season last year, even this year when he was put in as a striker, and there was just no effort from him. He wouldn't, he wasn't like even though Giroud has zero pace. He still ran at people. He still ran at the goalkeeper. He still ran at fullbacks and center halves and DMs and stuff to try to get the ball back, to try to put pressure on those guys. Same with Denny Welbeck. Even you even see a Yaya Sanogo doing that. Maybe Yaya Sanogo is doing that because he wants to play more. At least he shows effort. The modern day striker is so much different from a striker from even 10 years ago, you could even say. Maybe in some leagues, strikers can get away with that, where they can just be completely lazy from second one to the last second of the last whistle of the game. But when you're playing in the English Premier League, when you're playing in Champions League, you got to go balls out all the time. You got to play a defensive game. You have to be like Olivier Giroud, a Danny Welbeck, even a Yaya Sanogo, who will run at center halves and fullbacks and DMs. Even even when Theo Walcott was placed in as a striker over the last few years, he even did it. And he's not the most energetic guy to defend, to be honest with you. And he's running at people. He's running at goalkeepers. He's running at center halves. But when Lukas Podolski's out on the pitch, even when he's at the left wing, he's a liability, a complete liability. You could see it this year. That's why he didn't get any time at all. As far as our wingers go, I mean, Alexis Sanchez, he's as good as it gets on the wing. When he is in the final third, when he's even needs to track back and defend and help out the fullbacks. I mean, there's been plenty of times over the last several years that Kieran Gibbs was left out on an island all by himself with zero help. And there was plenty of times where he had to really track back to make up for the lack of defending, the lack of effort from Lukas Podolski. Of course, he only mainly played on the left. He never really played on the right. So it was always Gibbs or Monreal who had to really pay attention to what Lukas Podolski was doing on the pitch. And there was plenty of games where Lukas Podolski was playing on the left side, and you would always see Gibbs or Monreal play further back where they wouldn't press forward because they just couldn't. We didn't have the luxury of doing that because of the lack of effort, the lack of defensive effort from Lukas Podolski. Of the way I see Lukas Podolski is a perfectly wasteful talent. Just because of the fact that if he wasn't in the final third, if Arsenal wasn't in the final third, he didn't care. He was uninterested every single time. You could probably count on one hand of how many times he would actually track back. The tipping point, especially for me, was the Anderlecht game, when all he had to do was close down the attacker. And what did the attacker do? He had all day to make his cross. He had all day to line up his cross and to hit it exactly how he wanted to. And what happened? Anderlecht, they equalized on that goal. And all that Lukas Podolski had to do was track him down. All he had to do was run at him. What did he do? He just stood there, watched the guy make the cross, and when he finally realized he was going to make a cross, he jumped up and stuck his left leg out. That was all he did. And that was his, in that one sequence, was his Arsenal career in a nutshell. Yeah, it's sad to see him go because he was a huge morale boost to the guys. He probably helped the transition for Mesut Ozil, his transition a little bit, because there was a little bit of a German contingent with Lukas Podolski, with Per Mertesacker, Serge Gnabry. Those guys I'm sure helped out Mesut Ozil in his first year here at Arsenal. But that's all he was good for. Yeah, I understand he was a great finisher, but we don't play a double striker set. We don't play a 4-4-2 anymore. We play with a single striker up top. And with that striker, you need to be active. You need to be hard-working. And that's just not what Lukas Podolski is. I think it's a perfect fit that he's going to Serie A. Serie A is very slow, obviously. It's very defensive, but it's very slow that it can benefit a guy like Lukas Podolski and his style of play, because in that kind of style of Serie A, you can get away with being slow, you can get away with being effortless, to be honest with you. Some guys have gone to Serie A and became more, look at Gervinho. Look what he's doing. He was dog shit in the EPL for Arsenal. Couldn't really amount to anything here in the EPL. But then he goes to Serie A, where it's a much slower league, slower defenders, and he's tearing it up now. Why? Because he's so much faster than everybody else. He's good. He's good on the ball, but his finishing is probably one of the worst in the world, to be honest with you. But he's killing it over there because it's a slow league. And they're not used to a player like Gervinho, where he's good on the ball and he can make a few moves and create some space for himself. And again, fast, very fast. So going to the Serie A might be a perfect fit for Lukas Podolski. Of course, it's a loan move for right now, uh, uh, but there's an option to buy. I've heard there's an option to buy of as low as £5 million. That's pretty that's pathetic. But at the same time, if we can get him off our books, because Lukas Podolski is something like the third or fourth highest paid player on Arsenal currently. He was making 107,000 pounds a week for doing nothing, basically, for sitting the bench. Why keep on paying that type of money? I know he wanted to go to back to FC Cologne, but they just couldn't afford his wages, I guess. I guess that's his boyhood favorite team. But they just couldn't afford his wages right now. And of course, 107,000 pounds. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to be paying someone who's sitting the bench the majority of the time. So he might be, with the option to buy. I think either way, Arsenal will sell him this summer because there's just no room for him anymore. With Theo Walcott coming back, with the Ox playing at a high level that he is, Alexis Sanchez is also playing on the wing. And of course, once Mesut Ozil comes back, you'll have Santi coming back over at the wing. And again, too, I mean, the guy who can't get a game along with Lukas Podolski, even though he shows plenty of effort on the pitch, is Joel Campbell. Also, some other news. If no one really caught this, but I caught it. It was about a month or two ago. Wellington Silva, who is a Brazilian, who's been playing over at La Liga pretty much for the last like 2 or 3 years, has finally got his work permit to be able to play year-round in England now. So that's another guy to look out for maybe next summer that might come in and try to gain a spot in the first team. So that's another guy who might be coming in as a winner, who has a ton of skill, who's very pacey, but he needs some work to like on his finishing and whatnot. But as far as Lukas Podolski, I'm not sad that he goes. I hope he has. He's still 29. He's still somewhat young. He still has maybe about a few more years of prime years left in him to where he can really contribute and score plenty of goals. But best of luck to him. I hope he shows up good. I hope he gets plenty of minutes. I hope he does well. And of course, I'm sure some Arsenal fans, if he scores, say, 15 goals for the rest of the season, people are going to be up in arms. See, why didn't we? He just wasn't showing the effort here at Arsenal to demand those type of minutes, to demand a starting role. Honestly, would you really start him above the Ox? No. Would you really start him above Lucas or Theo Walcott? No. Alexis Sanchez? No fucking way. Would you really start him over Giroud? I wouldn't, just because Giroud's work rate is off the charts. Same with Danny Welbeck, even Yaya Sanogo. I'd rather see a huge work rate from our strikers and contributing to the team and playing as a team. And that's just not something that Lukas Podolski really did. He played as a team off the pitch, but on the pitch, it just seemed like once he was in the final third, he just, other than that, he just didn't care. And that's not what we need right now. That's not what we crave right now here at Arsenal. And like I said, best of luck to him. But all the proof is right in front of you on the TV when you watch his games and when you watch him play. Yeah, he's a great finisher, but other than that, there's not much to him. Look at this past summer. If you want to even make another argument, this past summer at the World Cup, Germany didn't have an out-and-out striker. They had Klose, obviously, but he was an old Klose. He couldn't play 80, 90, 100 minutes. But Lukas Podolski was sitting there on the bench. If Jurgi Low didn't want to play him up front when they were without a out-and-out striker, which many people quote-unquote say that's his natural position, why didn't Jurgi Low play him up top? That says it all right there. When he's willing to sacrifice Mesut Ozil and play him on the left wing instead of putting Lukas Podolski out there instead, who is a left winger / striker. So that says it all right there. That's another thing that pissed me off about Lukas Podolski. If he was in a German shirt, he tracks back all day long. He defends all day long. But then when he plays for his club team, who he's actually getting paid probably 10 times more money than the national team, he doesn't track back. He's not interested. But when he puts on that German shirt, he's tracking back all day. He's defending. Why? Because he wants to stay in the side. Because he wants to at least try to stay on the bench or even start. And it's just kind of ridiculous of how he could give that much effort for his national team, but not his club teams. You know, so I know a lot of people are sad, of course, because of his upbeat mentality, and he's always smiling and everything like that. But on a player standpoint, it's better for us. It's we can use that money elsewhere. We can use that 107,000 pounds a week elsewhere for a player who's going to track back, who's going to help defensively, who is maybe not as great as a finisher, but again, we can use that money elsewhere instead of kind of like wasting it on a player who's just going to be sitting on the bench most of the time. So that's my opinions on Lukas Podolski. That's just how it is. I mean, some people don't like the truth. Obviously, they just like to imagine things of what they are and are not. But that's just the truth about him, about the player. But yeah, looking on forward to the FA Cup draw against Hull City. I don't know how this how this even came about. You look at all the other fixtures throughout the Premier League teams, and Arsenal and Hull, a terrible draw for us. Even Hull, as for being runners up last year. It's just ridiculous, I think, of how we're getting draw. Last year our first draw was against Spurs. Now it's against Hull City, which is just a rematch of the final. So it's kind of BS, but at the same time, screw it. It's going to be the only chance of silverware we have this year, is the FA Cup, and it's going to be tough defending it, obviously, because everybody's going to want to knock us out, no matter what. I know people wanted to probably knock us out previous years just because of the fact that we haven't won any silverware, but we're defending champions right now, so everybody's going to want to really come at us hardcore. Even Hull City, they'll want revenge. We've already had a draw against them this season, so we got to come out, storming. I was been kind of contemplating throughout these last few days, especially after the Southampton game, of just of how many games we've been playing over these last 10 days, and I was almost thinking it would almost be better if he just puts a B side out there. Rather than putting Alexis Sanchez out there and the Ox and Santi and some of those guys, to just give them a week and a half off until our next game, which is until I believe next Saturday. But he's probably going to, because again, this is going to be our only chance at really silverware this year, because we're out of the Capital One Cup, and now we only have the FA Cup to really have a chance at for any kind of silverware, at least realistically. I know people are still trying to say that we're still going to be threats in the Champions League, but I mean, once they get down to that final 8, the final 4, I mean, that's going to be tough to go up against a Real Madrid or even Chelsea, for Christ's sake. When it comes down to those top 4, top 8 teams, it's going to be tough. But like I said, I've been contemplating putting a B side out there, but screw it. These guys need to start playing. Some good news, I guess, too. Aaron Ramsey and Mesut Ozil might be available for the Hull City game on Sunday. That's great news. We definitely need those two guys. We need those guys more than ever now. Let's just hope when Mesut Ozil does come back that they stick to the 4-2-3-1, because that's what we've been kind of lacking. I mean, Santi's been playing out of his mind over the last 4 or 5 weeks, but when it comes down to that final ball, when it comes down to picking that final ball out, seeing the pitch like Mesut Ozil does, that's what we've been lacking. hitting, the Ox on a run or hitting Sanchez on a run, Danny Welbeck, Giroud. We've been missing that perfect last pass into the box, and goddamn well that Mesut Ozil is that guy that can do that. I love Santi. I love what he's been doing. I've been screaming for him to take on defenders more, to use his dribbling skills, and he's been doing that. But it's great to see that those guys will be coming back, possibly by Sunday, possibly next Saturday for that game, for the Premier League game. So, because we desperately need them. We desperately need as many attackers as possible to try to get try to get some type of rhythm going. You thought we were gaining some type of rhythm, especially after West Ham. But then again, we go to Southampton, we get our asses kicked pretty much. And again, we get shot down once again. So we need to find some type of rhythm. We need to find, we need to get that combination of Alexis Sanchez, Theo, Ozil, Ramsey, Danny Welbeck, or Giroud up top, and just start destroying people, because we definitely need it. And of course, the transfer window is now open. I mean, I'm thinking about going to church on Sunday just to pray to God that we get some signings in. That there's something that there's something in the works, because we desperately need something. And yeah. But on the Sunday against Hull City, hopefully we can progress into the FA Cup. Hopefully we can defend it, and hopefully maybe we can lift the trophy again to make amends of this shit season so far, and hopefully it can start springboarding us, into some type of rhythm, because we need it. There's only 18 Premier League games left. We're currently sitting in sixth. The fucking Spurs are ahead of us. I mean, that says it all right there. That says it all right there. And, some of these players need to start pointing the finger at themselves instead of saying, oh, we're disappointed. No, you should be disappointed in yourself and the way you're playing, especially the back line. It needs to get better. It definitely needs to get better. If I said, like I said in my preview to the transfer window, if we can get a guy like Winston Reid in, stick him, Winston Reid, and Koscielny in the back, and just leave it there, because Winston Reid is so much more athletic. He's so much more faster than a Per Mertesacker, and you stick a guy like Koscielny, back there with him, it'll just be better all around for us. I think Per Mertesacker, I think he's done. I think he's just, we've been seeing the worst of him. When someone plays that bad, it's time to just, sit him on the bench and pray for someone else better to come in, because he just doesn't have it this year, and I don't think he's going to get it this year. I don't think he's going to get back to what he was last year. And of course, we just need something. We need some more pace back there. Even putting Cullum Chambers ahead of Per Mertesacker, which honestly should happen, because that's how bad he's been playing. But I pray to God, every day that we sign somebody. We sign some type of defender that's going to give us a boost, because we definitely need it. We definitely need that rotation, because once the FA Cup starts this Sunday, we're going to be in 3 competitions: Premier League, Champions League, FA Cup. And we need all hands on deck. We need to stay away from the injury bug from this point forward. I mean, if we keep on getting injuries, I have a hard time believing that we'll still creep into that top 4, because it's looking more and more grim as the weeks go on. But yeah, here's hope for a win against Hull City on Sunday, because the guys need it. Everybody needs it. Everybody needs to kind of take a deep breath, hopefully, after a game like this, and kind of celebrate a win instead of being Debbie Downers like we all are right now, to be honest with you. Because when we play against those top teams, we can't falter like that. We can't give up goals like that. We can't have our goalkeeper playing as badly, as poorly as he is. So hopefully Ospina has a good game. Hopefully, Arsene Wenger sends a message to Szczesny that says, you know what, sit down for the next 4 or 5 weeks and think about what type of goalkeeper you want to be. And hopefully Ospina shows well against Hull City, and hopefully gets a run of games, because the talent is there. Ospina is a really good goalkeeper. I think he just needs a run of games. Obviously he's coming back from injury, so hopefully he has a good run of games, and hopefully Arsene Wenger gives him that opportunity, because Arsene Wenger needs to turn over a new leaf. He needs to get up with the times, and not care about players' feelings. He can't be so much of a player's coach. He's got to hurt people's feelings once in a while to send messages, to say, you know what, you're not playing well. Sit down for a couple weeks and think about it. Maybe sometime, some of those players, that's what they need, to think about it, because sometimes they're thinking too much. So hopefully, a win against Hull City will change things around for the boys, and we'll be looking forward instead of backwards.